Welcome back to another production of Judah Forever. You're looking at a map that's done by Emmanuel Bowen, completed in the year 1747. And as a background, I would highly suggest that you read Joel chapter 2 and 3. I just put these scriptures right here, wrote it down in my notes, in my little book, to highlight prophecies concerning the end times of Yahweh, God's people. For 1260 years, the prophecy in Daniel 7 and Revelation 11, 12, 13. This 1260 years began in 538, ended in 1798. So just before the close of this prophecy, 1747, this map was done showing the kingdom of Judah in 1747. And notice what it says right there. Slave Coast. This is West Africa. Kingdom of Judah or Wida. And the bottom it says Fida. French, English, Latin, other maps all produced. This West African or African map. This is a 1747 French map of West Africa that shows you who we are. Now today we're going to talk about how African Americans crucified Christ. We're going to see this place that was called Negro Land, where the Europeans came and took slaves, brought them over to South America, especially in the Caribbean. Majority of slaves are brought to the Caribbean, and very few was actually brought to North America. But this poster is very interesting. Tell me what you think is different between this poster and this one. You see two basic words stand out in big, fat, bold letters. Negroes and fine Hebrews. Take away the H, what do you get? Ebos. Take away the S, or like this, right? What do you get? Ebo. Wow. Interesting, isn't that? From Hebrews to Negroes. And that's how African Americans crucified Christ, and we don't even know it. So let's just jump right into it. In Matthew 27, verse 20, our chief priests and elders said, "Destroy Yeshua." In verse 22, they all said, "Let him be crucified." Verse 23, they cried out even more, saying, "Let him be crucified." And finally, verse 24 and 25, in answer to Pilate, when he washed his hands in claiming innocence of the murder, the African Americans said in verse 25, "His blood be on us and on our descendants," or children, it says in the King James or other versions. His blood be on us, Christ, Yeshua's blood, his crucifixion, the guilt of his murder be on us and on our children or descendants. This curse has followed us ever since. Fast forward to Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 and 15. It is written of Christ in his resurrected body that his head and his hairs are white like wool, curly, lamb-like hair like a negro, and his feet like unto fine brass as if they burned in a furnace. His feet like unto fine brass as if they burned in a furnace. Sounds like a European man? No, not with burnt-looking feet and woolly hair. John, who wrote the book of Revelation, also said in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 11, he, Christ, Yeshua, he came unto his own, and his own people received him not. It's very typical of us Negroes. We reject our own Messiah, our prophets. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 14 says, and that's a book that's written for Hebrews, Ebos, Igbos, and all other various highly melanated people of Israel, says that for as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same. Children are flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same. He looks like us, Judah, Jews. And see Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2 about that, which says Judah is black. Judah is black in Jeremiah 14 verse 2. Fast forward about 6 to 7 years after the book of Hebrews was written, in 70 AD, the sanctuary temple was destroyed with the entire city and Hebrews who refused Christ as Messiah. The European nation of Rome fully took charge of the land of Israel. Jews scattered worldwide, and most of them ran to Ethiopia, which is called Africa today, which is a borderline away from Israel. Here's a little side note. This book, From Babylon to Timbuktu, written by Rudolph Windsor, has a quote that says, during the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Fast forward to 1492, Portugal, when King Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain expelled all the Jews and shipped most of them to San Tome Island, which is a little island off the coast of West Africa, and the West African coast, where the kingdom of Judah began around 1200 AD in West Africa. In expelling the Jews to West Africa, the word lancados was used to the Negroes. Lancados de negros, meaning throw out the trash, or the thrown out ones. The Negroes. That's 1492, y'all. Fast forward to 1695. 1695 in West Africa, when the last king of the Jews was born, named King Hafan. He became king at age 13 years old. And we're going to take a look at that video in another one about King Hafan. He was crowned officially in 1723 in Savi, West Africa, where 40 of his favorite wives attended, and many Europeans attended to bring gifts to him and buy slaves from him. Yes, King Hafan sold us out to the Europeans. Typical of Negroes, isn't it? And when he didn't have more Jews to sell out, he sold his own wives to the Europeans. And years thereafter, selling out most of us to the Caribbean. In 1727, the kingdom of Dahomey conquered and killed him, ending the West African kingdom of Judah. Fast forward to North America in 1718, when New Orleans began to get slaves from Wida, or Judah, West Africa. Louisiana State University Press published a book called Creole New Orleans. Look it up, people. Creole New Orleans, page 77, and I have a copy of that book for myself. Page 77 has a chart showing how many Jews or Negroes were brought to Louisiana as slaves. For nearly 15 years of documentation, not including the undocumented slave ship arrivals to America and St. Lucia and the Caribbean islands and South America. Slave Coast, that's what we saw on that map a while ago, on 1747 West African maps, is Kingdom of Judah. Our nationality has changed so many times. Can anyone tell me why? We were called Israelites, Jews, Lancados, Hebrews, Igbos, Igbos, Negroes, niggers, blacks, colored, West Indians, Caribbean people, mulattoes, and today, African Americans. The ones who suffer the most in every possible way. Read Deuteronomy chapter 28, Leviticus chapter 26. The ones who suffer in the most horrible way, in every possible way. Why? All because we cried out with our chief priests and elders, saying to the Roman government, let him be crucified. Crucify him. Crucify him. His blood be on us and on our children. We got what we asked for, people.